Welcome back to another episode of the What We're Watching podcast. I'm Megan.
And I'm Jenny, and today we're talking about Just Go With It.
Another summer movie request from you guys. Thank you guys so much for sending us all your favorite summer movies. It's been so fun to watch them.
Yeah, and I had not seen this one, so I'm getting to watch all of these new movies that I haven't seen before, but that are your favorites, so it's awesome.
I know, I was going to say, this is one of my favorites that, I put on regularly anyway, not because of the pod, so it's fun that we're going to talk about it.
Is it a comfort movie for you?
Yeah.
Do you know if you saw it when it first came out?
I don't know, but I bet I did. I'm realizing that I feel like we talk about two different types of movies a lot. We talk about the nostalgic High School Musical, Lizzie McGuire movie, like Disney Channel era. And then we also kind of talk about the Just Go With It, sort of like the Proposal, Bride Wars era of rom-coms. And I just love that era of movies just as much.
2010s.
Yes, the 2010s.
Because that was like when we were in high school, and I feel like those were the movies that everyone was talking about at the time, so it makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, so the logline for this movie is, his heart recently broken, plastic surgeon Danny Maccabee pretends to be married so he can enjoy future dates with no strings attached. His web of lies works, but when he meets Palmer, the gal of his dreams, she resists involvement. Instead of coming clean, Danny enlists Catherine, his assistant, to pose as his soon-to-be ex-wife. Instead of solving Danny's problems, the lies create more trouble.
I had no idea that was what this movie was about. I liked it, though. I liked the concept. I think there was some craziness in this movie that didn't make sense, but it was fun. I can see how it was a comfort movie for a lot of people.
I'm glad you think that, because there's definitely some problematic humor throughout, a la all 2010s movies. But I just love rom-com Jennifer Aniston.
Oh, she's so good. I actually kind of feel like she saved the movie.
Oh, she's the star, for sure.
Yeah, her performance was just so good. Her character was good. I liked it.
She's just so lovable in every single thing. I just love her. Like, it kind of reminds me of We're the Millers, the movie with Jason Sudeikis and Jennifer Aniston and Emma Roberts. I love that movie too. And I just love this era of Jennifer Aniston.
Me too. I feel like that's a movie that people still quote to this day.
Yeah. No regrets. I say that all the time.
I say that all the time. Just last week, actually. Yeah, I was thinking about that movie a lot when I was watching this one. It was very similar.
Yep.
Speaking of Jennifer Aniston, I thought this was a really cute fact. Just Go With It came out on February 11th, 2011, which was Jennifer Aniston's 42nd birthday.
Oh, I love that.
42? Are you serious?
Unbelievable. Absolutely not a believable fact.
42 is not old, but she just has never looked her age, I feel like.
No, she's like, I don't even want to say aging perfectly because you can age however you want, but she is beautiful in this movie, like she always is.
This is my petition to you that you have to watch Friends. Like, you have to just keep going and just watch it. It'd be such a good comfort show for you.
Yeah, I know. I would love it. We did an episode, by the way, on Friends. We did it on one of the iconic Thanksgiving episodes. So if you guys want to listen to that, we break down the whole thing.
Just Go With It is a remake of the 1969 film Cactus Flower, starring Goldie Hawn.
I had no idea this was a remake.
I know.
Huh. Okay.
And also, Just Go With It got really terrible reviews. And I saw that it was actually named one of the 10 worst films of 2011.
Oh.
Which is kind of crazy to me because this is a movie that was highly requested. I feel like this is a favorite of a lot of people. And it's kind of become, I would say, like a classic of this time.
It's very classic of 2010s, yeah. But we don't like movies that critics like.
True.
It's a hallmark of our taste. If it has an 11 on Rotten Tomatoes, we'll probably love it.
Exactly. I did think this was funny, though. Nicole Kidman's performance was praised by critics.
Interesting.
She has kind of a small role. I mean, it's not, I don't know. I'm kind of surprised by that.
I guess she's good at being really obnoxious and annoying. So I guess I could see that, like, in this role. I guess I could see that. I just don't like the character, so it's, like, hard for me to be like, yeah, she did the best job, you know?
Yeah, it is kind of funny that they called her out of all people, because I did think Jennifer Aniston did a great job, too. And honestly, Adam Sandler also, I mean, he was regular Adam Sandler in this movie.
He was a little bit, no, wasn't. I was going to say he's a little bit serious. This felt like borderline dramatic, you know?
You're like, he was prepping for Uncut Gems.
Which, by the way, I hate that movie.
Oh, Robert loves that movie, but he made the mistake of choosing that one to watch as like a family movie when his parents were in town. And at the very end of the movie, he was like, wow. And me and his parents were like, It's incredible. But I do love Julia Fox.
Yeah, of course. Okay, should we talk about the cast?
Yeah, let's talk about Jennifer Aniston, who plays Catherine.
So we already talked about her a little bit in the Friends episode, so if you want more info on Jen, we talk about her there. But I read that she grew up mostly in New York, and she started acting very young. So this is one of those situations, I feel like we've been talking about people lately that started acting later, but not her. So she started taking acting classes, I believe, at age 11.
Really?
Yeah. And then after high school, she went straight into off-Broadway plays. And then after that is when she started doing a few movies. And I read that I don't know if she felt this way, but it just kind of looked like her career maybe wasn't going to take off because she had done a couple of guest roles and a couple of really small roles in movies in the early 90s before she landed Friends. And then Friends obviously is what totally exploded her career.
I don't know why, but I always imagined that she was someone who just got found right around the time of Friends and didn't know she wanted to be an actress. But it's kind of cool to hear, no, she was working at it for a long time.
Yeah, she wanted to do it forever.
Cool.
And then after Friends, she went on to star in We're the Millers, which we talked about, Cake, Murder Mystery, also with Adam Sandler, Horrible Bosses, Bruce Almighty, Love Happens, The Breakup, Rumor Has It. You guys know the list.
It's long and it's good.
Yeah.
And then we have Adam Sandler, who plays Danny.
So Adam also started pretty young. He actually started doing stand-up comedy at age 17 and then started at NYU pretty soon after. And this is crazy. He landed a recurring role on The Cosby Show as a freshman at NYU.
I didn't know that.
So, like, talk about an immediate start. Like, started stand-up, goes to NYU the next year, which is a hard school to get into for performance, and then immediately books a recurring role, which is good. Like, that is not a guest role you play the victim on Law & Order like you see a lot of actors doing at the beginning of their career. On The Cosby Show, when he's like 18, just nuts.
Wow. That's awesome.
And then later on, he got scouted for SNL while he was working at a comedy club in LA. And I actually didn't realize this, but he was a writer as well as a performer starting in 1990 on SNL.
Okay, cool. That was my dream job as a kid.
To be an SNL writer or to be on SNL?
Both.
But there's not that many people, I don't think, that do both. There's like a team of writers and then the team of performers.
Interesting. I don't know why I always kind of thought they were the same, but that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wanted to do that, but I never put in the work or the effort or the research to figure it out. And then I read Colin Jost's book a couple years ago, and I saw how much work he put in to being on SNL, and I was like, oh,
that is how it would have been done. I was the same way. I was like, I am just going to be discovered one day, for sure.
Yeah.
Not an ounce of effort or, like, planning.
At a mall.
Oh, yeah. Which that happens. We're about to talk about how that happened to Brooklyn Decker, actually. First, you guys obviously know all of the things Adam Sandler is in, but here's a couple to refresh your memory. 50 First Dates, which we'll have to cover that at some point.
I've never seen that one.
Oh, yeah, we have to, with him and Drew Barrymore. It's very cute. He's also in Funny People, Hotel Transylvania, which I love the Hotel Transylvania movies, actually. He's in I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry, Click, Anger Management, Happy Gilmore, The Water Boy, and so many more. We talked about this a little bit in the You're So Not Invited to My Bat Mitzvah episode, because he's obviously in that movie. But he is married to Jackie Sandler. They've been married since 2003. She's also an actress, and they have 2 daughters, Sunny and Sadie, who both star in the You're So Not Invited to My Bat Mitzvah movie, too. His whole family's in that.
And you guys have to watch that movie if you haven't. It's so good. And if you like this podcast, you'll like the vibe of that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I just need it to get more credit.
Agreed. It was really cute. And so then this was fun. I knew that Adam and Jennifer had been friends for a long time because I know they've done multiple projects together. What I didn't know is that they actually met at a deli in LA in 1990, which is the same year that Adam became an SNL writer, and it was a couple years before Friends.
So she wasn't famous yet. He wasn't famous yet?
Right.
Wow. That's cute.
Isn't that cool?
They've known each other from the beginning.
Yeah, apparently at the time, Jennifer was dating one of Adam's friends. And then Just Go With It in 2011 was the first time they ever worked together.
When you said that they met at a deli, I was like, okay, how did that happen? Makes sense. They knew somebody.
Yeah, had somebody in common.
Mm-hmm.
And then they went on to do Murder Mystery and Murder Mystery 2 together, which those are pretty good movies. They're on Netflix. Have you seen them?
Mm-mm.
You might like them. They're just like very good casual watches, kind of like this one.
When we do our 2010s movies, that's when I'm really out of my element.
Mm.
And so it's been really fun to get to learn like all of the lore of the 2010s.
Yeah. And then I also read that Jen is great friends with Adam's wife, Jackie, which I just think that's really cute. I love that she's like friends with their whole family. Like she went to his youngest daughter's bat mitzvah and like just I think has been a big part of their family, which is cute.
I love that. That is cute. And then we have Brooklyn Decker, who plays Palmer.
Brooklyn Decker grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina, and like we just said, she became a model after being discovered in a mall as a teenager.
Why do I feel like there was someone else we talked about, like a Chad Michael Murray or somebody who was discovered at a mall? I can't remember who it was.
I feel like this happened to Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh, really?
I think so. And yeah, we've definitely talked about this a few times. This like used to be a thing. So maybe it's not delusional that we thought this would happen to us.
If you guys know anybody who was discovered at a mall, send them our way because we should do like a recap of all of them.
Yeah.
Pamela Anderson. No, she wasn't. Just kidding.
No, but she was discovered at a basketball game.
Some kind of sporting event. Yay, sports.
Go sports.
Yeah.
Anyway, Brooklyn had a very successful modeling career over many years. She was one of the big Sports Illustrated girlies. She was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, had several features. That's what I think a lot of people know her from. And then since she started acting, she was in a couple episodes of Royal Pains. I believe she had one episode of Ugly Betty. She was in What to Expect When You're Expecting, which is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Who was she in that?
She plays Dennis Quaid's, like, young wife.
Okay.
And yeah, she's done a bunch of other stuff. You guys will definitely know her. If you don't know her from any of those things, you probably know her from Grace and Frankie. She plays one of Grace, who is Jane Fonda, her daughters, named Mallory.
Nice.
And this was crazy. I found out that she is married to the famous tennis player, Andy Roddick, and he has a cameo in the movie.
He does?
Yeah, at the end of the movie.
Were they married yet?
They've been married since 2009, so yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's it. There are so many cameos in this movie, so that doesn't surprise me that he's in it, but that's cute. I'll have to go back and find him.
Yeah, it's very cute. And they were together, I think, for a few years before then, and they have 2 kids together now named Hank and Stevie.
Cute.
Which Stevie is their daughter's name, and that is also my girl dog's name, so I love that.
We love Stevie for a girl. Love it. Does Brooklyn look like anybody to you?
No. What are you about to just like blow my mind? Okay.
Maybe you won't see it because you've seen this movie so many times. She looked so much like Taylor Swift to me. I could not get over it. And it's not just that she's tall and she has blonde hair, but it's something about her face shape and her smile and her eyes.
I was going to say her mouth. I feel like her mouth weirdly is very similar, like her nose, mouth, maybe her eyes too. Yeah, I could see that.
While I was watching the movie, I had to Google it because I was like, surely I am not the only person who has thought this before. And yeah, there's a whole bunch of like comparison photos of them. They do look alike in the comparison photos, in my opinion. And I found this really funny Instagram post that she did. Which music video is it of Taylor Swift's where she's like crawling out of the grave? Do you know that one? Is it Look What You Made Me Do?
I think it's Look What You Made Me Do.
Brooklyn posted that photo and said, I look like zombie Taylor Swift.
So she agrees.
She does.
Oh, I'll have to look up comparison photos after this. I love that.
Yeah.
I can see that especially with younger Taylor Swift for some reason. Like when she was in her country era, I can really see that. Like if you told me that Taylor Swift that was in Valentine's Day was like Brooklyn Decker's younger sister or cousin, I would totally buy it.
Mm-hmm. Me too. Yeah, I just thought that was funny.
Wow, love that. Okay, should we get into the movie?
Let's do it. So the movie opens with a wedding, and we see guests walking into a Jewish temple, and then we see the bride getting ready in a room with her bridesmaids, and the bride is played by Adam Sandler's wife in real life, Jackie, which I only knew this because we did the You're So Not Invited to My Bat Mitzvah episode.
Same. I have never realized this, and all the times I've seen this movie, I never realized that was his actual wife, so that was really cool.
Does she cameo in most movies that he does? Do you know?
I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised either, and now I'm going to be on the lookout, because I would love that. Like, I love that Melissa McCarthy has Ben Falcone, her husband, in everything that she does. and I like look for him in every movie, so this will be a new one of that.
That's so cute. I do love that. The groom's sister leaves the room to get the veil, and all of the bridesmaids and the bride immediately start talking shit about her and the groom and making fun of them and making fun of their noses, and it's just horrible.
It's really sad. And what's worse is that then we zoom out and we see Danny, played by Adam Sandler, outside the room, and he hears everything, including when the bride talks about the affair that she's having with somebody else. And all of the bridesmaids are like asking her if she's going to leave Danny at the altar because she's having this affair. And she's like, no, no, no. She says she's marrying Danny, quote, and the zucchini in the middle of his face because he's sweet and he's going to be a cardiologist.
Ugh.
Ugh.
Gross. Then we fast forward to 20 years later, where present-day Danny starts narrating. After Danny's failed wedding, he goes to the bar and a beautiful girl sits next to him. She's played by Minka Kelly. She thinks he's going to hit on her because all the other guys in the bar are. But then he tells her that she dropped her purse, and she sees his wedding ring and apologizes and asks how long he's been married. And Danny in the voiceover says, I was going to tell her, I really was, but I didn't want her to know what a loser I was. He tells her he's been married for 6 years and makes up a story about his wife being horrible, and she asks if he wants to leave with her. And he says this, and so I discovered the power of the wedding ring. The symbol of my humiliation had become a tool to get back on the horse.
What did you think of this premise?
It's so 2010s to me. It was really unique. I'll give it that.
Okay.
I thought it was unique.
That's generous. I agree. It's very pinnacle 2010s humor. It like makes me like roll my eyes and go like, oh, men are gross. But also I just like this movie, so it's allowed.
It's gross of him, but I know Jennifer Aniston's character says that to him several times. So it made me see past it, you know?
Yeah, like it was getting called out. It wasn't just getting accepted.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, he sucks for this.
Yeah, that's true.
But he does it anyway because he's a man.
That's true. So then we find out that Danny actually went on to become a plastic surgeon instead of a cardiologist, and he still pretends to be married so that he can sleep with women without getting his heart broken. So we see this kind of montage of him doing this multiple times. And then we see Jennifer Aniston, who plays Catherine, and we see that she's working at a plastic surgeon's office, and she's in the middle of lecturing a delivery guy about bringing her subpar boobs for their like breast implant surgeries. And then Danny walks into the office, and this is where we learn that Catherine is his assistant. And then they meet with a patient who has these really uneven eyebrows. If you guys have seen this movie, this scene is iconic. You'll remember it. The woman with the uneven eyebrows is played by Rachel Dratch from SNL, which just makes it 10 times funnier. And Catherine, Jennifer Aniston, is like standing in the corner of the room and can't keep a straight face. And we just see her and Danny like make little jokes about it, which is like rude to the patient, but it's really funny. And we get to see that like what good friends they are.
Do you know what it made me think the whole time? I was watching that scene and I was like, this is how I felt with Bell's palsy when I had that.
Yeah.
Because only one side of my face could move, and so my eyebrow could raise, but my other one wouldn't. And so they're sitting there making fun of her, and I'm like, I'm not offended, but...
You're like, but that is who I identify with in this situation.
Yeah.
I never thought that about you. I never thought it looked silly.
Thank you. Thank you. So we cut to a fabulous LA party at a mansion on the beach, and Danny's there, and he's brought his obnoxious cousin Eddie. The host greets them, and we see he's an older guy with a ton of plastic surgery, which we find out wasn't done by Danny because Danny refused, and he said it was getting dangerous how much surgery he's had. I do think this movie it has some weird commentary on people who get plastic surgery.
Mm-hmm. But at the same time, he's a plastic surgeon. Yeah, I noticed the same thing. There were a couple of, just throughout, it's very 2010s. Like they make some comments about how Jennifer Aniston doesn't need plastic surgery because she's so like perfect and natural. When in my head, I'm like, she has absolutely had plastic surgery by this point, most likely because most celebrities have. So yeah, just kind of throughout. And then they like call out a bunch of people at this party that have like what looks like over the top plastic surgery. And anyway, I feel you. It was a little weird.
Yeah, it becomes the butt of a joke, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But I also recognize that a good plastic surgeon will tell you when you need to stop. So I think that's what Danny is trying to be here. So then the host's wife runs up and asks for help because her son fell and split open his knee. And this is another cameo. It's Heidi Montag from The Hills. There's so many cameos in this movie.
I totally missed this one.
And she was actually like one of the only ones I caught. Then Danny goes to the bathroom and gives the kid stitches, and the kid says he fell because he was distracted by a girl. When they leave the bathroom, Danny sees her. He says, "The distraction, I'm guessing." And this is Palmer, played by Brooklyn Decker.
So then we see that Palmer and Danny really hit it off, and they just spend the whole night talking. And in their conversation, we learn that Palmer is a teacher. And then Danny says, "I've never hung out with a girl your age. This is nice." And Palmer says, "Oh no, your first lie to me." Which I love that, like, all of the women in this movie call him out. To your point, I think that, like, makes it a little bit better that, like, sometimes his humor is crass. But then Danny confesses that it's actually just nice to connect with somebody because he's not sure he's ever connected with a woman.
Then they wake up in the morning on the beach, and Palmer says she feels like their relationship could be a real thing. She says she'll give him her number, and then he can take her on a date. And then she reaches into his pocket for his business card and finds the fake wedding ring. And she goes, "What's this?" And he goes, "A circle?"
Yeah.
He claims it's not his wedding ring, but realizes that it doesn't make sense. And she freaks out and tells him not to call her. Which, fair. It is very crazy that he would have a wedding ring in his pocket and not be married.
Absolutely, yeah. She has the right reaction to this. Then at work, Catherine tells Danny that she told him so and says that he needs to tell the truth and calls him a pig. They have a whole, like, argument conversation about this because he doesn't know what to do. And then Catherine's two kids, Maggie and Michael, come into the office with their babysitter, Rosa. And Michael asks Danny to take them to Hawaii so he can swim with the dolphins. And he says, quote, "Because that costs money, and I don't have any money, but my mom says you're rich." Michael is probably, what, 7? Something like that? Like, he's little. Yeah, mm-hmm. 6 maybe. This is just, like, such a classic kid having no filter type of thing to say.
I love his character.
Yeah. And then before the kids leave the office, Michael asks if he can make a Devlin. And we find out that Catherine uses her college nemesis's name, Devlin, as the, like, word for poop in her house. Which I think is hilarious.
I think Adam Sandler is like, "Well, I'm not bull Devlining you," or something like that.
Yeah, he uses it as, like, the substitute for shit, like, throughout the entire movie, which is hilarious.
I did really like that. The little girl, Maggie, is played by Bailey Madison. She was in a ton of movies and shows as a kid. I feel like everyone always recognizes her. More recently, she's been in Pretty Little Liars, Original Sin, Good Witch, and A Cinderella Story, Starstruck. And then the boy who plays Michael is Griffin Gluck, and he's from Tall Girl and Big Time Adolescence, which is that Pete Davidson movie. I actually really liked that movie. I didn't know this, but he was nominated for Best Performance in a Feature Film, Supporting Young Actor, for Just Go With It.
Wow. What award?
I don't know what award.
I could see that. He did a great job in this. He's so funny.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, well, this got really bad critic ratings, so maybe this was just some website that was nominating him for something.
Or like the VMAs or like the Teen Choice Awards or something. I could see that.
Yeah, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And then he and Sabrina Carpenter dated in 2019 and 2020, and many fans think that her song Feather is about him.
My mind is blown.
Yeah.
Like, to me, he is just this character. Like, I've looked at pictures of him obviously today, but I can't actually picture him any older. So the idea of him and Sabrina Carpenter, I know that they're probably the same age, but it just, like, doesn't compute.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised by that too, but it's funny, I recognized his face from nowadays. And so when I looked at him in the movie, I was like, now who is that? He looks kind of familiar. So kind of the opposite reaction from you.
Funny. Okay, funny. I need to look up pictures of him and Sabrina because I feel like that'll be interesting to see.
Mm-hmm. So
then back to the movie. While the kids are in the bathroom, Danny confesses to Catherine that he thinks Palmer might be the one. So then Catherine is like, okay, yeah, you can't tell her the truth about this fake wedding ring. This is also where we find out that Catherine is divorced and her kid's dad just, like, doesn't show up for things. Like, he was supposed to get the kids today and he didn't show up and he's just not really involved. And so Catherine is, like, kind of telling Danny, like, be careful when you want something serious because serious things lead to marriage, which lead to divorce. And, like, look at me. And then as they're talking about divorce, Catherine goes, wait a minute.
And then we cut to Danny showing up at Palmer's school with a huge bouquet. He explains he's getting divorced and that he filed a long time ago. Palmer asks what his wife's name is, and Danny says, Devlin.
Just, like, panics.
He says Devlin cheated with a guy named Dolph, and now he wants his own chance at happiness. Palmer agrees, but says she needs to hear it from Devlin herself. Also, another theme is he's so bad at coming up with fake names in this movie.
So bad. So bad.
Like, the lies are just, they could have been easier. You know what I mean?
Totally. So then Danny asks Catherine to pretend to be his wife and meet with Palmer. And she's very reluctant, but eventually she agrees and he takes her shopping, quote, so she can look like a plastic surgeon's wife. Which, like, ugh, I roll. Anyway, so they go to a bunch of designer stores and we see Catherine try on these like super high heels at one of them. And the salesperson that's helping them says that the shoes are $1,700. And Danny starts whining about how expensive they are. So then Catherine is like, oh no, I'm not feeling well. I might not be able to make it tonight. So then Danny's like, fine, get the shoes. And then they get in this like big fake argument about their divorce. And Danny's like, well, we're getting divorced because you're greedy. And the saleswoman is like, I think you're going to need the matching bag too. So she ends up leaving with both pairs of shoes and the bag.
I loved her.
Yeah.
She's such a girl's girl, you know?
She is. Yeah, she totally is. And then when she walks away, Catherine is like, you asked for this. And then Danny just pushes her over in the heels. It's tragic.
And then we see a montage of them shopping and Catherine is trying on different outfits. And then it's time for Catherine to get her hair done, and Keegan-Michael Key is the hairdresser. And he says her hair has no hope. He's actually so rude to her. And I was like, this is the one. I mean, there's a lot of unbelievable things in this movie, but this one, I was like, come on now. You can't look at Jennifer Aniston and say that anything's wrong with her, to be honest.
But and you can tell, like, she has a great haircut and her hair looks great. It's just like it hasn't been done that day. And he's just like talking about how horrible it is. And yeah, I agree.
I was like, I want her hair. I'll take it.
Totally. So then we see Palmer and Danny at a table at a restaurant waiting for, quote, Devlin, aka Catherine. And then we see Catherine walk up and we get like the full Jennifer Aniston movie star treatment in this scene where she like walks up. I'm pretty sure it's like slow-mo and music is playing and like her hair is blowing in the wind. And as she's walking up, Palmer says, I love her shoes. And she's wearing the shoes from earlier. And Danny goes, well, she's got about 5 pairs. Maybe she'll give you one. And in this scene, Catherine acts so different. Like she's flirting with the waiter. She's insulting Danny the whole time. She says that Danny has an issue with ED at one point. And Palmer asks what that is. And Catherine goes, oh gosh, I forgot, you're 15. So anyway, the whole entire interaction is just really funny and out of character for her.
And then as they're leaving the restaurant, Catherine says she still wants Danny to be happy. She looks at them and says, look, you're like Barbie and Grandpa Ken. And as she's about to get in the car, she gets a call from her kids and starts talking to them. And Palmer is shocked to learn they have kids. And then Catherine knows she messed up because it was going perfectly until this moment. And she quickly gets in the car to leave. But Palmer says she's excited because she loves kids and just never thought Danny was a kid's guy. So this actually kind of works in his favor.
And then Danny is on like damage control mode. And so he takes Catherine's kids to lunch and he asks them to be his pretend kids for one afternoon. Maggie says, well, if this is an acting job, then we should get paid. And so they negotiate, and ultimately he offers to give her $300 and send her to a 3-week acting class. And this is actually really funny because at the end, he's like, joke's on you, I would have done it for $500. And she's like, joke's on you, I would have done it for the experience.
I do love her.
And then Michael says he wants to go to Hawaii to swim with the dolphins, but when Danny refuses, he eventually agrees to an Xbox and 4 video games.
At work, Catherine is pissed at Danny for bringing her kids into this, which is fair. But Danny says it's Catherine's fault for picking up the phone and spilling the beans on the kids. As Catherine and Danny meet with a patient, he notices Catherine is wearing perfume, and she admits that she's going on a date with Brian, an office manager in their building, that has a ponytail. And not only does he have a ponytail, but he also has a goatee. And Danny makes a point the whole movie to put his finger on his chin and make it flap whenever he's talking about the goatee.
Aww.
And we'll find out why later.
So then everybody goes to J.D. McFunnigan's, which is basically Chuck E. Cheese. And that's where Palmer, Catherine, Danny, and all the kids hang out. And this is the second time that he just struggles to come up with fake names in his lie, to your point. I think Palmer comes up and like asks what the kids' names are, and Danny panics because he hasn't thought about it until this moment. And he says, oh, this is Kiki D and Bart, which is just like hilarious and crazy. Before they actually even go into J.D. McFunnigan's, the group, like Catherine and Danny and the kids, talk about how they're going to treat this like one of Maggie's improv classes where you can't say no, you just have to say yes and. And so the first example of this is Maggie decides she's going to do a British accent, which is a bad British accent. But then Danny and Catherine just have to like go along with it. This is where people start saying just go with it in the movie. So Danny and Catherine said that they sent her to a boarding school in England, and that's where she got her accent.
I was cringing every time she talked.
I know, it's bad.
When Danny gets up to get napkins at lunch, Palmer asks Michael, who's playing Bart, how he's doing. And Michael says his dad promised he'd take him to Hawaii and swim with the dolphins, but canceled the trip because he met Palmer. And Palmer's pissed, and Danny says that they misunderstood him and that they'll have to go to Hawaii sooner because he's so excited about it. And I love how conniving Michael was in this moment to get what he wanted.
He's a very evil genius. And then we cut right to the airport, and we see Catherine, Danny, Palmer, and all the kids there together. And then Eddie, Danny's cousin, runs up to the group and says he's also coming on the trip. And he's pretending to be Dolph, who is the guy that Catherine/Devlin, quote, cheated on Danny with. And so obviously Catherine freaks out when Eddie shows up and pulls him aside and asks what he's doing there. And Eddie says he sent a dick pic to his ex-girlfriend and forgot that she's engaged to a UFC fighter, so he has to get out of town.
Gross.
But
also I'm like, wow, you all are just gonna go to Hawaii?
Right, like how is that the solution?
What a crazy concept. Because if I were Catherine, I would have been like, okay, we're done with this, you know?
Yeah, this is where it ends.
Yeah. But no, well, she gets a free trip to Hawaii, so I guess that's worth it.
True.
And so then we cut to a beautiful resort in Hawaii, and everyone's there. And Danny hadn't booked the rooms in advance, so he had to book 2 suites for $8,000 and $12,000 per night.
Oof.
That's insane.
Once everybody drops things in their rooms, they go out to the beach, and Eddie sees Palmer walk out of the ocean. It's very, like, Sports Illustrated shoot vibes. We zoom in on Palmer, like, walking out of the ocean, and, like, her hair is wet, you know, the whole thing. And Eddie goes, yeah, I would create a fake family for that. And then as Eddie and Danny walk around the hotel, Danny stops to look at the engagement rings. And Eddie thinks he's crazy, but Danny seems very serious about it.
At dinner, Eddie tells everyone he sells sheep online for work. The lies that they're making up just don't make any sense. I think that's what makes it so funny, is they're all bad liars.
They're crazy. Well, and we have to talk about the fact that Eddie, a.k.a. he's playing Dolph, has, like, these magnifying glasses. They're, like...
We know what you mean.
Okay. He has these, like, magnifying glass lenses on as glasses, so he looks ridiculous because his eyes are, like, bugging out. And he's in this, like, weird outfit, and he's doing this weird accent. I don't even know what the accent is supposed to be. So it just, like, everything he says is, like, 10 times more absurd.
So yeah, to just add to the absurdity, he says he sells sheep online for work. And then Catherine gets up from the table, and she gets Danny to come with her, and she says she has to leave because she can't stand Eddie. Which is fair, because I was feeling the same way at this point. But while they're arguing, someone calls Catherine's name, and it's the real Devlin Adams, Catherine's college nemesis. My jaw dropped. I was like, oh no, this is going to be bad. This is going to be bad. So Devlin introduces her husband to Catherine. His name is Ian, and he is played by Dave Matthews from Dave Matthews Band.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, I did not know that. You're right. There's so many cameos in this movie.
So many. I think anytime there's an extra, we just have to assume it's someone famous. We learn that he invented the iPod. The real Devlin is played by Nicole Kidman, and she is insufferable the whole time. And she says she didn't know Catherine came to places like this, and says her teeth look much better now that they're fixed. So she's so rude. And she also talks about how sad it is that one of their other college friends is a single divorced mom, which obviously Catherine is a single divorced mom, but she doesn't want Devlin to know that. So she suddenly makes up that she's married to Danny and that they have 2 kids. And Devlin is very impressed that Catherine married a plastic surgeon. This was before social media, so people couldn't fact check you. You know what I mean?
Right. I was thinking that this whole time. I was like, thank God there was no Facebook or Instagram at this time, because they would have ruined the whole thing.
I think there was Facebook for sure, but it wasn't used to the same extent, I feel like.
Yeah, and I feel like the stalking probably wasn't to the same degree.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if I met somebody now and I was Devlin is totally the type that she would be, like, on Catherine's Facebook immediately, you know?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So then when Danny and Catherine walk away from Devlin and Ian, Catherine says it feels like a, quote, car door just shut on her soul. And Danny is just dying laughing because he thinks it's so funny that both of them have now made up different fake lives to try to impress people.
And in the morning, Danny finds out that Palmer set up a family hike for everyone to get them all to bond. And we see a montage of their trek through the jungle where they ride in canoes, and then they cross a broken bridge. And while they're crossing the bridge, there's this family down below that's like, hey, it's only supposed to be one at a time.
And there's like 6 of them on it.
And then Danny falls through. The little kids that were in the family are Sadie and Sonny.
Oh my gosh.
Adam Sandler's real kids.
Wow, so the whole family's in the movie.
Yes, and they were so little. They were little.
Oh.
Then the group gets to a waterfall, and Palmer immediately jumps in, followed by Maggie. Danny tells Michael to jump in, but then we find out that Michael can't swim.
I can't with this.
And Danny freaks out because the whole reason why they're in Hawaii is because Michael wanted to swim with the dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I guess I didn't think that part through.
This is where I'm like looking at Jennifer Aniston's character, and I'm like, this is where you should have said something, okay?
He can't swim, yeah.
Yeah.
And apparently his dad was supposed to teach him how to swim, but he was too busy.
Sad. It's like a recurring theme for these kids, which sucks. So then Catherine decides that she also wants to get in and swim, and the boys are stunned because of how beautiful she is. I think they just like... The attitude towards Catherine up until now in this movie is that she is like a mom that doesn't take care of herself. I feel like is like how they act towards her, even though that's obviously not the case. Anyway, she's gorgeous, and we get the whole slow-mo rom-com music thing because she's like taking her cover-up off and like the music is playing, you know. You guys can imagine.
And I want to say they were making fun of what bathing suit she would have on under there. And they were kind of ribbing on her. And they're like, oh, you're going to follow Palmer, who just had this amazing entrance into the water. You're going to follow that, really?
Mm-hmm.
And she did.
And she did. And she crushed it.
Then that night, Danny and Palmer watch the kids. And Danny tells Catherine to have a good night and take a break. And they actually have a nice moment before Danny makes fun of her for going to lunch with Brian, the guy with the goatee again. And Catherine says that Brian made it through an entire lunch with a woman without making up a fake life, which is a good burn. And Danny says, you hurt me. And Catherine says, that was not nice, but it was the truth. Now please pay attention to my children. I do love their banter back and forth because they are mean to each other, but they never take it seriously.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I love their dynamic.
As soon as Catherine leaves the hotel room, Eddie pops out and says, alone at last. And Catherine just immediately punches him in the nuts.
I love this part. So then Maggie and Michael play a game with Palmer and Danny, and Michael says his dad doesn't have time for him. I think Danny is asking the group questions, and the question is, what makes you sad? And yeah, Michael says that my dad doesn't have time for me. And then Michael starts crying, and Maggie comforts him and says, we don't need our dad in our lives. And obviously they're talking about their real dad, not Danny, but Palmer thinks they're talking about Danny. So Palmer is super upset, and then Danny puts the kids in bed and lectures them for blowing it. But then he ends up being like, I know that you have real stuff going on. And you can tell that they do have this deeper relationship, which is sweet.
Then Palmer tells them that she and Catherine are having a spa day tomorrow so the kids can spend time with Danny. She is so sweet.
I was going to say, she's giving the opposite of Meredith Blake.
Yes, she's just trying so hard to make this family better. And she's not threatened by Catherine at all. And she's like, yeah, we'll just be a big happy family. It's totally fine.
Mm-hmm. It's very sweet. So then the next day, the kids go golfing with Danny, and then they go to the pool so that Michael can learn to swim. And at the pool, both Danny and Eddie are there, and they're having Michael swim back and forth between them, and they get him to swim further and further by incentivizing him with dolphin cookies, because he loves dolphins, which I just think is so cute.
Palmer and Catherine talk during their spa massages, and Palmer asks what she should get Danny for his birthday. And then we learn that Catherine knows everything about Danny, and she has a ton of great suggestions because they've known each other for so long. Down to his favorite jelly beans and how you have to pick all of the ones out that he doesn't like.
Yeah.
It was sweet.
Then we're back at the pool, and Michael rips off his floaties and says he can do it on his own. And Maggie asks if he's sure, and Michael says, hell yeah. So then as he's swimming across the entire pool for the first time without floaties, Catherine and Palmer walk up, and they're yelling and cheering him on from the side of the pool. And he does it. He makes it all the way across the pool to Eddie. And Danny just stands up and is like, that's my boy. And we can tell he's really proud of Michael. And then we pan up and see both Palmer and Catherine lovingly looking at Danny for teaching Michael this. And it's very cute. But between Catherine, like, saying how well she knows Danny. And then this moment, I think this is where we really start to get the sense of, like, oh, there's really something there.
Totally, yeah. But then Devlin, the real Devlin, Nicole Kidman, comes up to the girls and everyone panics. Before Palmer can reveal that Catherine is also named Devlin, because she's like, oh my gosh, I've never met anyone named Devlin before, and now there's two.
How crazy.
Before she can really say that, Eddie pushes her into the pool, and then he's holding her under.
He's drowning her.
He's basically drowning her. And the real Devlin invites Catherine and Danny to dinner that night, and Catherine panics and accepts.
So then everyone goes back to their hotel rooms, and Catherine makes Dolph call Palmer to invite her to dinner so that Catherine and Danny can meet with Devlin and Ian. And Palmer, you can tell Palmer does not want to because she just got drowned by this man in the pool, but Danny tells her to go, and so she accepts.
At dinner, Devlin and her husband are just as insufferable as they were before. They're super over-the-top affectionate, and they're rude to the waiters. But Danny and Catherine text each other under the table joking about them, which is kind of cute. And then Devlin asks Danny what plastic surgery he'd recommend for her, and he says, nothing. You already took too much fat out of your arms, but that's what sleeves are for. Woof.
Woof. Then Eddie takes Palmer to dinner really far away from the resort in this, like, rural area. There's, like, chickens everywhere, and you can tell they're just, like, nowhere near the touristy part of the island. And then someone runs into the restaurant while they're eating, saying that she needs a vet because her pet sheep passed out. And Palmer immediately volunteers Eddie because Eddie is a sheep salesman.
Uh-oh. Then Devlin and her husband look at each other in the eye and say what they love about each other before he gets up to leave, I think. And Devlin makes a comment that not everyone can do that. This was so weird, but, like, I got the sentiment. Like, I saw what they were doing here.
Mm-hmm. It was giving, like, a therapist told them that before they, like, one of them leaves the house, they should say something that they love about each other, and they just took it to, like, the next level.
Yeah, exactly. Like a competition, because that's all their lives are, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then Catherine gets competitive when Devlin says that not everyone can do the compliment thing, and says that she and Danny will do it. And they do. They stare at each other, and Catherine says a lot of heartfelt things that she loves about Danny, and then he does the same. And you can tell they really mean it.
Mm-hmm. It's really sweet. And you can tell this is also the first time where Danny is like, hang on, what am I doing? Because we've kind of seen it from Catherine before where she's like, wait, he is great. And then to see Danny, like, really have to confront that in this moment, I think is nice. And then we see Eddie save the sheep from choking.
I like that he's just there and he's like, I don't know what to do. And then he just thinks that maybe the sheep is choking and he gives it the Heimlich and then
it works.
All was well. Yeah. It's kind of funny. Then back at the dinner, there's a hula contest and Devlin immediately volunteers. And she makes a comment that some people are more comfortable on the sidelines and she's sure that Catherine won't want to participate. But Catherine jumps up and she decides to do it too.
And almost immediately in the competition, it dwindles down to Catherine and Devlin, so it's just the two of them competing. And the girls have a dance-off, and ultimately they tie. And so then Devlin demands a tiebreaker. She, like, grabs the mic from the host and is like, what's the tiebreaker? It's, like, very intense. And then we find out that the tiebreaker is a partner exercise called Coconut Smoochie. So then Danny and Ian have to get on stage, and each couple has to move a coconut from between their stomachs to up between their mouths. And at one point, Devlin and Ian drop their coconut, and Ian, like, squats down and sucks it up with his butt cheeks, like, suctions it. It's so weird. But in the end, Catherine and Danny win. They do it first.
And then Danny and Catherine flirt their whole walk back to their rooms, and it's really cute. And Danny makes fun of Catherine again for going out with Brian, and she confesses that it wasn't a date. The doctor Brian works for is moving his practice to New York, and they wanted Catherine to move with them and take over as office manager. But she tells Danny that she could never leave him. And then they flirt some more, and Danny says it's too bad the coconut got in their way tonight. And just as they're about to kiss, Maggie and Michael open the door and say, Mommy? So then Catherine and Danny awkwardly shake hands and just go back to their own rooms.
Sad. Almost. Before Danny gets back to his room, he turns around to actually go back to Catherine's, because you can tell he's been thinking about what just happened. But before he gets there, he runs into Eddie and Palmer. And Palmer tells Danny that they had a few drinks, and Dolph saved a sheep. And then she also says that she found out about Danny looking at engagement rings. And she's like, I don't even need a ring. We should just get married here in Hawaii tomorrow. And he's like so overwhelmed by this, but it's like also sort of what he wants, but he's just confused. And so I think in his confusion, he's just like, yeah, okay. And so as they kiss, Catherine comes off the elevator, and you can tell she was doing the same thing as Danny. Like she was leaving her room to then go back to Danny's room to find him. And as Catherine like runs into them, Eddie turns around and announces that Palmer and Danny are getting married tomorrow. And Catherine is just shook. Like she's like, oh, that's great. But you can tell she's like heartbroken and surprised at the same time. But she also is just like, oh, but I can't be there because it's bad luck for the ex to go to the wedding. But you know, it's just because she's sad.
This was really sad. And that night, both Danny and Catherine can't sleep. And so finally, Danny calls Catherine's room and asks if she thinks this is a good idea. And Catherine reminds him the whole reason they all came to Hawaii is because he cares about Palmer and that he doesn't need her permission to get married. And Danny says he's worried about things getting weird between them at the office, but Catherine says she's going to move to New York for the new job. And she also says she's been divorced and has 2 kids, so she doesn't have time for guessing. And I hate this because this is just like one of those miscommunication things where all he wanted was for her to be like, no, you shouldn't marry her. You should be with me instead. Mm-hmm. But then she doesn't. And so then he's like, well, okay, I guess I'm just going to marry her. And then I'm sitting here like, how do you think this is going to work? Because this is based on a lie. And what is she going to do when she marries you and finds out you don't have kids? Mm-hmm. And Devlin, aka Catherine, is not your ex-wife.
Right.
Like, what's the plan here?
Right. No, I'm with you. I'm totally with you. But I also then understand Catherine being like, I think she says, like, there's a lot of guessing coming from your end of the phone because he's talking about, oh, I guess it's the right thing. I guess, blah, blah, blah. And I get her being like, if you're not going to be the one to call me and say I broke it off with Palmer, I want to be with you, then I'm not going to tell you what to do. Because she's, like, seen him be such a, like, womanizer over the years that I'm sure she feels like I'm not going to get in the way of this. But you're right. I hate seeing this type of miscommunication in rom-coms. It's always sad.
I always just want to be like, no, talk to each other. Like, those are the moments where I scream at the TV, you know?
Yeah, just say it. Yeah. In the morning, Catherine runs into Palmer in the lobby, and Palmer confesses that she thinks Danny might still love Catherine. And Catherine is like, wait, why would you say that? And Palmer says that he laughs at all of Catherine's jokes, and he always glows when she's around. And Catherine reassures her that it's just because they've known each other for a long time, and they're just comfortable. So the girls hug, and Palmer feels relieved. But then over Palmer's shoulder, while they're hugging, Catherine sees Danny picking out souvenirs with her kids in the gift shop. And it's just like another wistful moment where she's just like, ugh, he is a great guy.
We cut to the bar on the beach where Catherine is drinking alone. And Devlin marches up to the bar, and they start talking. And Catherine confesses everything and says she was never married to Danny. She says that she made everything up because she didn't want Devlin to know the truth. And Devlin says she never would have guessed because Danny and Catherine had a real connection. Devlin confesses that her husband is gay and they're breaking up. And then she also says that he never invented the iPod. He made his money suing the Dodgers after getting hit by a foul ball. So they've been in this competition over fake lies this whole time. Mm-hmm. And so the girls laugh together and they say they wish they had told each other the truth the whole time.
And then Danny shows up to the bar. And he overheard Catherine tell Devlin that she might be in love with Danny. And so, like, the first thing Danny says is like, was that true? Did you mean it when you said you might be in love with me? Which is very cute. And so Catherine asks how the wedding was, and Danny admits he couldn't go through with the wedding because he realized he loves Catherine. And Catherine kind of, like, spirals and is like, but I'm not 23. I'm not like Palmer. Like, I have kids. I'm not like the people that you try to date. And Danny says, yeah, Palmer is great. She's very nice. There's one problem, though. She's not you. And then he also says how much he loves her kids. And it's very cute. And then they kiss.
Yay.
Yay.
Then we hear Danny's voiceover again. He says Palmer met a tennis player on the plane on her way home. And that's played by her real husband. Oh, that's the tennis player.
Yeah.
That's cute. Okay, that's really cute. And then we see Catherine and Danny's wedding. And they dance together. And Brian, the bassist, plays guitar, and we see his goatee flowing in the wind, and that's how we know what Danny was doing this whole time with his finger on his chin waving.
Yeah, it's so gross.
And that's the end.
Yay.
That was a fun watch. That was definitely a summer vibes kind of movie.
It's a great light watch. I feel like it's also a really easy group movie. Like if you have a bunch of friends over, or like you're like you're renting a house for a wedding or something and you have a bunch of people over, I feel like this is a great one for that.
Was this a sleepover watch for you?
Yeah.
I thought so. Okay, I thought so.
This is also a good one because Brian and I both like it, and so this is just like an easy one to put on.
Yeah, I felt like it was a good one. Like you could have it on in the background while you're doing something else. You know what I mean? Especially after you've seen it the first time.
Totally.
But that was fun. Thank you guys so much for recommending that we watch that one.
I know. Keep the summer movie requests coming. I love hearing what movies you guys like and then covering them on the pod. It's really fun.
Yeah, it's really fun. And then what's extra fun is getting to chat with you guys afterwards. So keep sending us messages on Instagram at What We're Watching Pod. We love chatting with you guys.
And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.